Hey guys, welcome. It's Marcy, the Cranky Crafter. Guess what? It's Fodder Friday. We're gonna try the monarchs, which I used in a previous post. And there were several of you that voted to have it be shown on a Fodder Friday. So we're gonna try it out. These are a work in progress. I don't know that any of my work is ever perfect. But I'm still like getting into the assembly line of these, as you'll probably see when we go through this, but I figured why not just bring you along for the ride. I haven't cut any out yet, besides the ones that I put into the nature journal, but these are the ones that I just made. I've got it on 90-pound watercolor paper. I just get the cheaper brand. This is actually from Michael's. It's called Artist Loft, and it's fairly inexpensive. I get the 90 pounds for the things that I'm going to cut out because it's much easier than the thicker paper. It doesn't crease as easily. And you can find that on sale quite frequently there. They have like buy one, get one free, or stuff like that if you watch it. And I try to pick up a couple just because I go through them a lot. So I suppose you could do this with any butterfly. It doesn't have to be a monarch, but for the sake of this video, we're doing monarchs type. These are not, accurate to nature. They're very just whimsical, but I'm going to use orange mostly, black. We do this bit with the paint pens. You could come in and do it with the watercolors, but you want to make sure, either way, whichever you do, make sure that it's completely dry, the orange, before you come in with anything else, or the black will just bleed into everything. I have my 8 round. As you know, this is the one that I really prefer to use most often. I have a couple of colors here. I have this orange that I took from my palette, and then I also have like this turquoisey color because sometimes I like to do splatters while they're still damp, if I can catch it in time. As you know, I'm here in the desert, and so watercolor can be a little bit challenging, to say the least, and so I have to sometimes think a little bit ahead, and I'm not always good at that, especially when I'm, on camera and not just fiddling away with my own time here in the craft room. So I'm going to get my brush wet. I already have my orange here that's activated. Kind of like maple syrup is the consistency. So someone had asked me this before, I think it was Tony actually, of like how to get your paint from like your little half pans to your palette. And I essentially just wet, let me see if I can bring it in here, whatever color I'm going to draw from, I kind of wet it. Usually I will have sprayed it with my spray bottle. I get some paint on my brush, and then I just put it into my palette. When you first do it, obviously you're not going to have all this water added to it. It's just going to be little streaks of color. So just keep adding from your paint palette, like your little half pan, until you get like a, I don't know that it would be a puddle necessarily, but a little bit of amount of paint in here. And then go to your water with your brush and start dropping in water. I should have mixed it right on camera so that you could see, just in case there's folks out there, that haven't done it. If I remember, at the end, I'll start a new color so that you can see it. Okay. So I'm going to get some orange on my brush. Don't want a ton, but you want it to be enough that it's not going to dry out as you're making your stroke. So what I have found is that I've been trying to think of a way to kind of like, or rather some words to kind of help describe the shapes that I'm doing. And this one just reminds me of kind of like a bow, but like a floppy bow, if that makes sense. So you'll see maybe as we get going, but you're going to start here in the, leave yourself enough room for 2 wings essentially. So I kind of start over here, not so close to the edge. And then I'm just going to go straight across and I'm going to come down. It's kind of like almost like a triangle, if you will. When I get the other side on, it makes me think of a floppy bow. And these don't have to be the same, okay? Because well, mine aren't ever the same, because doing 2 things that, you know, exactly like symmetrical, yeah, that's not in my repertoire. So then what I'll do, now you see mine's already dried and I'm not going to worry about it because I can just go over the whole thing again. But we want to put the little bottom wings on. And so I basically try to come as close to that other orange line as I can. And then just come down, wrap around. It's kind of like teardrops almost. Now, you don't need to worry about this center part if it doesn't get filled in with color, because we're going to make the black body in the center. And so it's not imperative that it be filled in. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to color this in. And to be honest, I like leaving a little bit of white. To me, it gives it some dimension. You don't have to do that, but I tend to do that. And then do the same for the bottom. And if you feel you got too much paint, dry your brush off and just come in and pick it up a little bit. This would have been fine. I mean, it will dry fine, but I just wanted to show you how you can do that. Now, this would be a great time to come in and do a couple of splatters. I'm going to do that before I move on because it will be dry by the time I try to do it. And then you hope that some of them actually make it to the butterfly, because you can see they're going everywhere else. And so I want that to be completely dry before I do anything else to that. So you can come on and just make a couple more. These are going to be wet splatters. It doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't bother me if the colors mix. Obviously, I've done it over here. But if you're worried about that, I would use your dryer or wait for it to dry before you start again. So we're going to do the same thing where we're making kind of like a bow. You see how I got that turquoise in there? That's okay. I'm not concerned about it. Also, see how my wings are not at all the same? That's also okay. Because the reality is, when you come in and do your outlines and stuff, you can also kind of refine that. So then we're going to come close to the edge and do like our little teardrop bit for the bottom wings. And then we're going to color it in. Now, since my outline has already basically dried, I tend to go over it again when I'm coloring in because I want it to be similar to the same color. If you don't go over it again, you're going to have like lighter colors. You're going to tell. It won't look like one unit, if that makes sense. Not a big deal at all. It's just really how you prefer it. like, I'll try not to do it in this one so that you can see. You see how the color that I'm adding now, that's gonna be, it's gonna dry a little bit darker than the outline. It doesn't bother me. But if you really like want the crisp lines, then you're gonna want to go over your outline again. And I say that only if it's dried, right? Because here it dries. Like before I get to the next wing, that outline is pretty much already dry. Thank you, desert. And then I just like add a little bit of, you could use any color for that. You could do, you know, yellow, you could do a fuchsia, you could do anything. I just happen to have turquoise that was ready to go. So I'm like, let's just use it. Okay, let's do one more, and then I might have to dry everything before we move on. So we're gonna do our little bow shape. And then we're gonna come in and do the bottom wings. And see, completely not looking the same. And I'm fine with it. I'm not upset by it. I don't think each, I mean, I think nature is perfect the way that nature is, right? But I don't think each butterfly is gonna be the same. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe every single monarch is exactly the same in nature. And you can come back and say, Marcy, you're wrong. And I'll own it. I'll own the wrongness. Let's see. How about if we try, I have a little bit of fuchsia over here. Might try to do that with some splatters, just for the heck of it. See what happens. Okay, so now this needs to be dry. So I'm gonna pause you and use my power tool. Okay, now for this bit is complete personal preference. I mean, all of this is personal preference, really. What I have used is a black Posca pen. This is the 0.7. You could use a thinner, you know, a finer one. If you had a finer one, you could use a fine tip pen. You don't have to use the Posca. I just like having the little body a little bit thicker and this first set of lines a little bit thicker. But again, that's all you. Like you do it, excuse me, how you like it to be. So I've got my black Posca. Hopefully it's gonna cooperate. As you can tell, it's doing a great job so far. Let me move this aside a little bit so I can make sure that I'm in. So I usually start by adding the body first, and really all I'm gonna do is add like a little circle up at the top, and then I'm gonna come down and give it a little body. And then I'll fill that in. I don't mind if it has, you know, little white bits showing through of the paper. And then give it some antenna. So the next part then, I kind of will turn it a little bit to make it a little bit easier. What I do is I start here at the center. Let me show you on one that's done. I start in the center, kind of like at this point up here, at the rounded part of the wing. I was gonna say a shoulder, and I'm pretty sure that butterflies don't have shoulders, but that's what it reminds me of. Oh, brother. Okay, so I go up here, and then basically I'm gonna come down like in a swoop almost. I'm gonna do one on that side, and then I'm gonna do one on that side. And then I'm gonna do the very same thing from the center of the black lines that we just did. I'm going to do one there and do one there, just like that. And then repeat on the other side. Almost like curtains. Just like that. And then do the same thing for the littler, the like bottom wings. Start up here kind of like at the tip. Do the same thing. Only I'm going to do one set, and then I'm going to make this kind of little half circle kind of thing right there. You don't have to do that, but it's reminiscent to me of seeing monarchs, you know, like images of them. And then I do an outline around the whole thing. And this is where, if you want more white showing, that's up to you. I kind of like having a little bit of white, but you might not. And then you just outline the whole thing. Okay? And then I come in. I just have a very fine tip black pen. This is 0.35. And I'm just going to make little circles inside these bits that we just drew in. Doesn't matter, like, they're not perfect circles. I'm not counting them. Just like that. And then I'm going to come in with my white paint pen. This one is a bigger one. 1.8 to 2.5. And I'm just going to kind of make dots over top of the little circles that I just did. They don't have to line up. In fact, I don't want them to. And then I'm going to come down here to this bottom set and do the same thing. And there it is. There you have it. Now, I have done splatters already, but I will come in when we're all done and do some black ones on top of everything, just because I like that. So I'm going to finish, let's see. Yeah, I'll finish these. And then if we have enough time, we can cut some out. We can cut them out. If you were to like leave them on the paper and frame it or something, I think it's fun because it has the, you know, different colored splatters that you made. And I like that. I was getting ready to come in here and start this. This kind of reminds me of a basketball. The orange and the black lines kind of reminds me of a basketball. I was getting ready to come in here and start this, and then my youngest started texting me from upstairs. We are he, you know, we try to get his like medical appointments and stuff like that managed while he's on break. And conveniently, he went in for his dental appointment a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, you know, how did it go? I went fine. Great. Okay, great. Glad to hear that. Didn't, you know, need any extra care or whatever. Well, then I started having to think about stuff. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that he probably needs to think about getting his wisdom teeth managed. Yeah, so I asked him, and he's like, well, he said that they're fine and I can just do it whenever I want. Oh, okay, well, so what that really means is you need to have it done. So when I asked you before if we needed to do anything and you said no, what you really meant was, I don't want to, and so I'm going to say no. It wasn't as, premeditated as that, but it was kind of funny. So we've been spending the last little good bit of time trying to get him scheduled for a consult before we take him back to school, because I don't want him having this done at school where there's no, body to help assist him or whatever. Of course, he thinks, well, the kids will be there and like my roommates will be there. Yeah, they will. And that's great. But I would rather somebody that's actually maybe knows what to look for and stuff like that. So sure enough, when I called the dentist to inquire, they're like, oh yeah, the dentist put a referral in, but it didn't actually get sent out. So A, that's not helpful to me. B, it's also not really that helpful that I wasn't informed that a referral was going to be sent out, because let's be real. You've got teenagers, and how much information are they relaying to the parent of what the dentist said? Not much. Oh, brother. So she said that she would email me the referrals. Didn't happen. And then as I'm sitting down today, I get messages from the youngest saying, I'm getting text messages from these, places to set up an appointment, and I've set an appointment for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I love that you're doing this. Love that you're doing this and taking the initiative, because that's what needs to happen. But yeah, we really kind of need to talk about that, because the date you chose really isn't going to provide enough time. So it's like I'm, on the one hand, you're glad that they're doing it. On the other hand, it's like, like they have to be taught how to navigate, at least in the United States, the medical system, because it's not user-friendly. I would, in fact, say it is user anti-friendly. They just put you through tons of hoops and, all that kind of stuff. So they're all very good teaching moments, but at the same time, that's, what they are. And so then they're like talking to him like he knows everything about what's going on, and he doesn't. Okay, so I have some black that I just activated up here. Should have shown that, didn't. But I'm going to come in and just do a little bit of black splatters, if it's going to let me. There we go. Just because I like it. You don't have to, but I like it. Okay, so let's let that dry a second. This is how they've turned out so far. I think they're pretty good. You can make these any size you want. And when we go to cut them, you can kind of refine your shape too, if you're not that crazy about it. But what I want to do is start from scratch. Trying to see how much time I have. We're doing okay. I just want to start from scratch on how to put a color in. Sorry for my arm. So I have an empty little palette space here. I have very dirty water here. So I'm going to spray a color. I'm just going to choose any random color that I want. Let's see if I can put these close together. I think you can see that. So I want my brush to be wet. I'm going to pick up a bright color so that you can see it. This is like a, I don't know, fuchsia, magenta kind of. So I'm dipping into this wet, concentrated paint here. And I'm just bringing it over to the palette. And I'll do it again just to have a little bit more there. Then I'm going to be done with that for the sake of this demonstration. And then I'm going to go into my water, and I'm going to have my brush kind of wet so that I can see. Can you see how wet that is? Because basically what I'm doing is transferring water into this paint. So it's okay if there's even a drop of water on the end, but you're just going to do that and kind of move it around and add more drops of water until you kind of get the consistency. I like it of like maple syrup. So like that's pretty good. The other stage I characterize is kind of like honey, and that's to me too thick. So this would be thicker. You know how honey is like, takes longer to pour out because it's much thicker than like maple syrup. You want your paint to be able to move around pretty good. And that's it. And then you can leave this just like this on your desk or whatever, and these will dry. And then when you want to use them again, just use your spray bottle, spray them with a little bit of water, swirl it around, and you're good to go. If you have, you know, pets or something that you think are going to get into it, you can cover it. I've not had to do that. And in my climate, everything dries really quickly. So you might have to experiment a little bit with that. I wouldn't necessarily want to cover it when it was super, super wet because you might get condensation in there. And I'm sure at some point you could get potentially mold if you kept it covered while it was still super duper wet. So you might have to experiment with that a little bit. Look at my water. Absolutely dirty. It's fine. Okay, these should be good. So let's cut out. I'm just going to cut this bottom strip because I should still have enough space to do another set if I want to. And then we're just going to cut them. And then you're pretty good. And like always, you can, you know, fussy cut these as fussily as you want to. Really is totally up to you. Like, especially with the antenna. You don't have to go in and out of each of them. You could just do the whole top rounded if you wanted. And there's one. I actually think it's kind of fun when you make them, when you actually make them intentionally, like different shapes, so to speak. Like still the basic like bow shape, but to me, a little bit sloppy is fun because, I don't know, it just adds to the whimsy of it. There's another one. And then you can use these, you know, in anything. Like you saw, I put them in my nature journal. You could put some on a greeting card. Art journal spreads, really anything. Put them inside a card for somebody just because they're fun. And then they'll have a little piece of, you know, art to make them smile when they open it. There. We did it. What do we think? I think they turned out pretty good. Here, let's do these two that I did earlier. And then we'll have some lighter ones next to the darker ones. I didn't do any splatters. anything with these. These are quite basic. I was just trying to get a feel for, like, sometimes I have to get a feel for how I'm gonna show it on the video, I guess, because I'm trying to make it teachable, if that makes sense. And really, like everything, it's just practice. Like, I could make a bajillion of these and every one is still going to look different. But to me, that's the great part about it. Because then there's no, like, pressure to make everything exactly the same. Sometimes I think that can add pressure to doing your art. Just let it go. Just let it flow and see what happens. Because you know what? It's art. So you're the one that gets to make the rules. Yes, I love this. So you see how these ones are more like up, and those are almost more down. But still, I think they're all beautiful. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you're still here, like and subscribe. Look, see, I didn't even add the big lines in this one. That's what I knew I was missing something. I can still do it. You can just come in here. I thought that I was missing something. I couldn't put my finger on it. And as you'll see, it doesn't, you know, it's not imperative that they're there. They still look good without a line there. But it does add that, what's the word? Like traditional monarch look to it, I think. See what I mean about teachable? Enter at your own risk when you come and watch things being taught on the Cranky Crafter channel. There. Now it's finished. But still, you can see how these wings kind of turn up and these ones kind of turn down. I don't know. I just think it's fun that they're all a little bit different. So, if you've stuck around, please like and subscribe. That helps a ton. Hopefully you've enjoyed watching. If you have other ideas for Fodder Friday, comment below. I'm making a list of things that people are suggesting, and I'll try them out and see if I can have a go at them. So yeah, I'll see you next time.